Hello everyone, Elliot here, and I think this video has been a while. What I mean to say is it's probably a bit past due, and I figured, the ecosystem is changing a lot. There's recently um, this banger from Karpathy recently on basically, where did it go? I've never felt this much behind as a programmer, and this actually did pretty well. Basically, what he's saying is Opus 4.5 in Claude code is the best thing ever, and it's like an alien technology. And, I feel like potentially I'm at the frontier of this and might have some things that you could learn. And maybe I could learn some things from you as well, but I figured it would be at least worth a shot showing what I'm doing to kind of provide you guys some more context here. So I'm on a MacBook, first of all, and before I actually get into my objective, like coding workflow and how I move around the laptop, let's look outside of it. So first of all, I drink a lot of water. I eat eggs for breakfast. I have a bunch of supplements that I take, nootropics, etc. I have a time-lapse camera here that I use to post on X and inspire others and keep myself motivated. My bed is literally right here. Everything is perfectly organized. I ensure there's no clutter at any given point in time. If my energy's bad, I'll go outside and play hockey and do push-ups. There's a whiteboard right here where I'll write down my thoughts. My other GPU rig that I spin stuff up on, which you'll see in a second, is right there. That little light is the GPU RGB light. And I try to, stay here as much as possible to keep my agents running as much as I possibly can. And to do this, I have this 4-liter milk jug with water that I've washed out and put water in here to not go upstairs and refill my water as much, and also have a fridge with food in it to sort of keep myself in here. And that's, I basically want to minimize the amount of downtime total. And so, of course, I do like to get a full night's sleep. Around 8 hours, give or take, per night is usually good for me. And sleep is very important. I prioritize that, but during the hours that I'm awake, I want to fully utilize those. Sleep is very important, as is exercise, as is eating properly and taking care of oneself, and that allows me to be more consistent here and just sort of be able to have the energy to continue doing this every day and move at the highest speed that I can. So part of that is, listening to, Minecraft songs the entire day on repeat. But another is, living inside of Claude code here. So just for reference, I'll show you some things that I'm kind of doing here, because this all looks like gibberish, but I've got just right now a bunch of side projects that I'm running, just basically testing out some features. One of them right now is currently pre-training a model to play Minecraft. This one is evaluating LLMs, specifically right now Opus 4.5 on multi-turn CUDA kernel optimization. So what that means is CUDA kernels that would run on that GPU there. It's basically evaluating models in a chat-like format where it can run tools and profile the GPU when it's running these specific functions called kernels, and it's trying to get a high score. And we basically evaluate a model on how good it is at doing this, how much faster, speed up, for example, on optimizing the inference speed of this model. So this is an evaluation suite that I'm doing just in parallel here, because this is something that I find interesting, and personally I do a lot of work with kernels, and so I feel like it's important for me to know at any given point in time which model is the best at doing this. So this is something I'm sort of making for myself, once again a side project. And then this over here, there was some interesting stuff about Mario Kart and how we can reinforcement learning basically train models, and I'm doing some sort of background tests on this. And by the way, to move through terminals, I go Command Shift, and then I press the bracket keys just like above the Enter, like return key, and then to the left, I press Command Shift, and then I use those to move around. You can also use Command 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, and then in order to move between these, I use just, instead of Command Shift, I just use Command, and I can tab between these windows. Okay. And then for preferences, that's another thing which you can obviously customize, but I am using iTerm. Now, next window here is I'm making basically a super fast Minecraft simulation right now. It looks like we've gotten this up to almost 800,000 steps per second, so that's like basically FPS. So yeah, basically a very minimalistic version of Minecraft where an agent is RL trained to break trees. Currently runs 1,024 instances of this at this resolution in Vision at this many frames per second. So that's something I've been kind of doing here in order to get more experience building, sort of embodied reinforcement learning environments for agents. In this one, I'm doing some inference optimization, and then in this one, just building like a nice system for myself. I guess this is part of, doubling down on this concept of you want to understand yourself better so you can sort of stay at the frontier of this. And, we are living in a time where we have to get used to this alien technology more than ever, especially now with, stuff like this coming out. And I think it's absolutely fundamental if I log as much data as I can about my brain and thoughts and try not to be repetitive and wasteful with my mental cycles. And so it would be best to log these in some sort of database. So this is something that I plan to build up over time, but this has, been running in the background for a bit, and it looks like it's just done now and I can run it soon. As for, how I actually go through and sort of manage these, I'll give you an example here. So that one's running, and then this one, let's see, can you add a second model to the evaluation suite so that we can ensure that Opus 4.5 is in fact beating other frontier models? Take GPT-5 for instance from OpenAI. And this is Aqua Voice. This is a separate, thing that I use. And in here, I use a dictionary with basically a bunch of like terms about things that I might say on a day-to-day basis. I'm not going to leak too much about this, but I basically just spam all of like the vocabulary terms. Like right now I have 787 different vocabulary terms in here that if I say, for example, kublos or kuda or something, then some models wouldn't pick that up, but some transcription models wouldn't, but this one does, because I specifically add all of the vocabulary that I use on a day-to-day basis. So every time I'm prompting these with voice, it's actually, structured grammatically correct, and it will, improve the sort of like output text snippet as I'm talking. It's just a thing of like accuracy, and you don't want to put like bad tokens into the prompt box there. I guess not too much is going on here. I might do some of this later, but it's hard for me to concentrate as I'm recording a video right now. Some other things I'll use, I use Discord and Slack and WhatsApp and Signal, of course. That's like, I like to keep those open. Screen Studio for videos like these, CapCut for when I'm editing these time-lapse videos that I upload on X. I sync a bunch of, files and, lots of data to Google Drive. And then as for, planning and whatnot and LLM chats, right now I've found it nice to just use Claude.ai. Opus 4.5 is, it's decent at communicating with me, and I found that I can basically connect it to everything that I want, and it's pretty nice. I don't know what else there would specifically be to add. Ooh, I guess my Claude Code setup would be nice to cover here. So yeah, Claude Code setup, I go Claude like this, and the latest version as of right now, when I'm recording this, is 2.0.76. I did revert back to 2.0.64 because it felt like the model quality was degraded. So that is a thing you can do with Claude Code. If you feel like the performance is just like bad for some reason, and you upgrade and it just starts performing terribly, you can actually revert that. You can like uninstall this and then reinstall the new one, and all of your chats and stuff will be saved as long as you don't delete like the global what do you call it, this thing, ls.claude, this one. But in here, at least, like, MCP's Context 7 and EXA right now, these are some that these are just like very obviously you'd want to use these. I haven't yet fixed up my plugins, as I don't want to blow a context window, but I think I will change those as I get more used to them. But yeah, it's like, and then I guess to show some usage, in the past 30 days, I've played for the Claude Max 20X plan. It's like, in Canada where I live, $290 per month or something. I can't remember. And so far in the last 30 days, I've used, what do you call it? Like over 4x that. So over 1.1 billion tokens. I've used over 1 billion tokens in the last 30 days. And I think in the past like 24 hours, I've used something like 200 million, just going crazy. So I figured I'd kind of make this video now because, I'm kind of on a roll here. But and then for the other machine that I have there, I guess this would be, yeah, I go to, it's called Theodolos. Theodolos is translated to servant of God. God is me. It runs when I'm sleeping. It has a NVIDIA RTX 3090, NVIDIA driver 580, CUDA version 13, overclocked to 420 watts maximum, and 24 gigabytes of VRAM. So that's the setup that I run on. And then I use shortcuts like SAI for sudo apt install, and then the -y. So I can go like neofetch, and it will just like boom, pull this, and you'll see. So this is the setup that I use, latest Ubuntu version, decent CPU, 3090, and then 96 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. That's basically the setup that I have running. What I'll do usually is, since the MacBook is more designed for like talking to people on Discord or Slack or managing X or doing this or that, I want to reserve the RAM on this machine specifically for like some of these more productivity stuff, whereas Claude Code, I prefer to SSH into this Theodolos machine, to which I'll spin it up. And if I go BTOP right now, you can see Claude uses up, like some sessions might use like 500, like half a gig of RAM or something. And I'm just like, I don't want that on my MacBook. I don't want that to be limiting performance. So since this one has, so on my MacBook, there's 36 gigabytes of RAM, and this one there's sorry, on here 94, or well 96 gigs in RAM sticks, but it's, I guess here's 94. Yeah, I'm like, oh, well, this has triple, so why not use that? And it's faster too, and any experiments really, it just makes sense because the models are going to be, if you think about it from a sort of logical point of view, when you're a lab training the model, you have to think of how it was actually trained through reinforcement learning, and that would likely be done on a Linux machine, right? They're not going to do RL training on MacBooks, as the MacBook likes to lock down security features and prevent you from doing things. So I like the MacBook for the sort of productivity and being able to like tab, and there's some nice things I like about it, and it's a good generalist working machine. But when it comes to specialized, very high performance intensive, like resource intensive tasks, and trying to really speed things up, I like to just delegate all the clods that I can to this specific instance. It's okay if I have, like, for example, this knowledge graph thing that I'm building is running on the MacBook here, but most things I would want to delegate over, like running RL environments, for example. I wouldn't want to do that on the Mac. I don't want to delegate that to Theodolos over there. But yeah, that's, I think, basically it. There's actually one more thing I would like to show you. So this is a very important thing. Claude will use this global system prompt that you give it. And if we go to the Anthropic, what is it? Claude Code docs. So we go here, Claude Code quick starts common workflows. I don't know where it is. Claude.md, optimizing performance. It might be somewhere here, but Claude Code XML. Yeah, so right, build with Claude prompt engineering. When your prompts involve multiple components like context, instructions, and examples, XML text can be a game changer. So normally, by default, I will not use XML just in my prompts, but in the system prompt, I will. So usually my thing is it can sort of interpret that, and when I voice type it, it works nice and naturally. But when actually that's something I could potentially change in my configuration. But for now, at least system prompts, it works quite well when you do this XML format. And so that's what my Claude.md looks like. So if you go here, you can see, like, for example, if I'm building Python projects, I want to use UV. When I'm using Rust, I want to build and run with release, right? Universal constraints, not emojis or LLM slop like M dashes. Assumptions are the worst enemy. These are just sort of some rules that I've built up over my experience and been like, oh, I don't want it to behave that way, or assume this, or guess metrics, right? So those are some rules that I'll ask it to insert. I'll just open up a new tab. I'll say Claude, and then I'll like add this rule to my global Claude.md, and it will, Aqua will take that the global Claude.md, because that's in my vocabulary, and it will simply just like paste it there. Check my global Claude.md, right? And it sort of just doesn't say cloud or something else. It will just know. Now, going through sort of validate everything at small scale. So for example, if you're trying to run a training experiment and you just want to verify performance, like you're not being bottlenecked by a data loader or something, or your like kernel isn't speeding, is like not slowing you down, or there's room for optimization, you want to like profile everything at a smaller scale before you actually kick something off and actually start spending money, right? And you'll see this later. If the request is unclear, where is it? I have a compute sponsor, Voltage Park, and one thing that they did give me at the bottom here, Voltage Park. So you can spin up instances without explicit user permission. So, or no, you can never provision these. So essentially, when I'm spinning these H100s off, they're costing me $2 per hour. And so I need to be careful about how I do this. And so what makes sense is to first test and do profiling on this rig. And then before we actually kick something off, maybe that's going to run for a couple days, is I'll just make sure that this is the absolute best config, and that all there is to do is simply just change the number of layers or change batch size and just increase this one term that will just scale to more GPUs or take up the more capacity and VRAM that the H100 has, and that way we don't waste time or resources. So that's another thing I would add. Give it access to all your machines. So if I'm like running from the MacBook, for instance, and kick something off, and then I want it to go and test this out on the Theodolos machine over there, I tell it how to do that. So I say, description, this is the command, right? I've already, set this up and everything. If I want SSH into the Mac, I use this. And then, how to use different MCPs, implementing papers, right? So there's like fetching the source of it instead of, using some PDF and then PDF plumber and then getting some like lossy format. Like, I don't want that. I just want the raw LaTeX code, verify that against the GitHub repository, and then like, do the compute strategy thing. So these are all kind of interlinked together, and I encourage you to, not just copy mine, but I encourage you to build up your own as you get more experienced. But XML is just great. I obviously can't read any of this, but this is perfect for Opus, as it has been, reinforcement learning trained on a lot of stuff. Anyways, that's basically all I've got for today. I hope you found this somewhat helpful. If you did, I do have an X account here that you can follow. I tend to just like post my unfiltered thoughts on here. So, there'll obviously be more insane stuff that happens after this video release, but you'll find that on X here. I'm pretty active. So anyways, thank you for, taking the time to watch, and I hope you can make something out of this. I might do a follow-up video soon if this does well, or if people tend to like it. But yeah, adios.